Ooh, let's go. Rise up to the big leagues, baby. Rise up, rise. Bang. Let's go. You already know. Oh, shit. No. Wow. Yeah. Chase God.
Welcome in, Falcons fans. Your boy Bryce Lewis back at it again for another Atlanta Falcons wrap-up. The Falcons win the first game of the season against the Minnesota Vikings on Sunday Night Football in a dominating defensive performance from them and a great special teams performance as well. So we're going to talk about all that today on this episode. If you enjoy this episode, subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment down below about anything we discuss, as we are now in a very jubilant mood after the Falcons win and win in a way that they haven't won in quite a while. So we're going to get into all that, like I said. So let's dive into it. Falcons come into week 2, 0-1. You really don't want to go down 0-2. You need to win, right? You play in Minnesota, who came off a comeback victory on Monday Night Football last week. J.J. McCarthy came alive late in that game. But if you remember, and if you've watched that game, you've heard about that game, he struggled for the first literal 3 quarters. And I said, if you're the Falcons, you want the first 3 quarters of J.J. McCarthy. And that's exactly what they got on Sunday Night Football. J.J. McCarthy sacked 6 times, threw 2 interceptions, fumbled once, that was lost. The defense created havoc for J.J. McCarthy, and that was led by the class of 2025. The rookies from this year's draft class made an impact in this game. Xavier Watts, interception. Billy Bowman, interception. James Pierce Jr., sack. Jalen Walker, sack. All of them impacting the game in different ways. And really just makes you look at this defense overall with the performance they had. It's that Jeff Ulbrich so far has done a great job with what they have been trying to accomplish. They clearly have more of an identity this year. We've seen quotes that have talked about, we're not running 20 different coverages. We know what we're trying to do, and we're doing it. And outside of, you have the occasional bust in coverage, maybe guessing wrong reaction, Xavier Watson in the first half, Jesse Bates last week against Tampa Bay. The Falcons defense has been very solid. Very, very solid. Devine Diablo has been a welcome sight. He's really been a great combination piece with Caden Ellis. Brandon Dorlus got a sack. Ruka Roro got his first career sack in this game. The defensive line was feasting. Leonard Floyd got a sack. I mean, this is exactly the performance you wanted to see against a Vikings offensive line who was makeshift, missing some guys, obviously missing their left tackle, and then the Falcons went out there and did what they were supposed to. They dominated it. They dominated it, and that really set the tone of the night, a defensive showdown, which the Falcons were able to win. I'll get to the offense later on. Obviously, there's some concern there, but I want to really focus on the positive right now. Like I said, this defense was fantastic. Now, obviously, yes, A.J. Terrell did go down in this game. I don't know if we have an official that it's a hamstring, but it looked like a hamstring injury. Raheem, obviously, was going to give us an update on that, let us know what's going on with him. I could see the Falcons sitting him for the Panthers game. Again, you don't want to assume that any game's easy, but you may think we can survive if AJ's not 100% there for the Panthers game, right? D. Alford actually did a pretty decent job when he came in last week. They kind of moved him to outside corner with Billy Bowman taking the inside corner spot at nickel corner. And I think he did a pretty decent job last week. So I think out of that game, at least, especially with a guy like a Justin Jefferson, you probably feel a little bit better. And Carolina, outside of Terrell and McMillan, who's really scaring you? Xavier Legette struggled. Hunter Renfrow, I guess, outside of the whip route, I ain't really too worried about it. But obviously, you don't want to overestimate them because they did beat you last year. So definitely need to take this game seriously. But back to the game at hand and what just happened. Like I said, the Falcons defense was everything that we wanted to see. And I said this earlier at the start of this episode. When was the last time the Falcons won a game like this? Just a physical, grounded out defensive matchup. Usually the Falcons have been known for offense, scoring points. They've been known for, they're explosive. Bijan, Drake, Pitts, throwing the ball over the yard. And we knew their running game was physical, but we never felt like the defense matched that. We always felt like the D-line was a little light in the pants. We always felt like teams who were physical could just out-physical bully the Falcons on defense. And really, I feel like in this game especially, they kind of said, no, we're the bullies. We're going to bully you. They bullied Minnesota. And, Kevin O'Connell is considered one of the best offensive coordinators in the NFL. And he really didn't have any answers for the Falcons. And listen, we can look into J.J. McCarthy. Is he ready? Is he good enough? That's obviously going to be a question people are going to wonder. But at the end of the day, they came out, shut him down, guys made plays, and that's all you can ask for. Let me talk about the rookies. Like James Pierce Jr., I think the Falcons had a 60% pressure rate in the game, close to that. When was the last time the Falcons had that in a game? Like the fact that the majority of dropbacks, J.J. McCarthy is under pressure, is a sight to behold. And James Pierce Jr. is a very big part of that. He clearly is going to eventually be he'll probably be the guy in terms of the pass rusher at some point as he continues to grow throughout the season and years to come, right? So he had a great game. He was getting after it. I think he had 1.5 sacks in the game. So he's a guy who got close against Baker and he got home tonight. Got home on Sunday. So really good stuff from him. Really excited for Jalen Walker. Now, people have been really hard on Jalen Walker. I've seen the comments. I've seen the social media posts. People have been like, what is he going to do? What does he do? Like, what is he going to impact? Pass rush? If you got pass rush, then what are you going to do? And like I said, people are going to be critical because we, have these expectations. Everybody has a narrative. They create a narrative what they want from a certain player, what they think we should be getting from a certain player. And so in this situation, people are like, what is Jalen Walker bringing us? He's been hurt, etc. Jalen Walker, sack, impacting the pass rush. That's what you want to see. He's a guy who I feel like is more of a project out of the two guys, but I think he's a guy that some people think potentially as an overall player could be the better overall player than James Pierce Jr., even though James Pierce Jr., I think everybody views him as the better pass rusher out of the two. So I think we need to, calm down with that. And then I think that with those two guys combining with Dorless and Rook, they're going to be a heck of a pass rush for years to come. A heck of a pass rush 2 years ago. And then let's go to the secondary. Billy Bowman is a guy who, people, and I saw a couple of people tweet about it. They say he's not the fastest player. He's not the fastest guy, but he's the quickest. And he shows great instincts. And the interception he had, just showing the ball hawk, showing the playmaking. Apparently during the game, I think maybe was it Chris Collinsworth said that apparently Ulbrich said he maybe considered even putting Billy Bowman on Justin Jefferson. Like, Billy Bowman is literally the Swiss Army knife of that entire defense. He is someone they can play in the box, nickel, back coverage. Like, he does so much. He almost had a second interception if the ball didn't touch the ground. Like, and think about it. You draft a guy from Oklahoma who created turnovers in college. And sometimes not every person that you draft that had that background in college does the same thing when they come to the league, a la Richie Grant, right? But Bowman seems like he could be one of your leading tacklers. He can also defend whoever you need and also make plays on top of that. So Billy Bowman is going to be a Swiss Army knife that I think Jeff Ulbrich loves. I think Jeff Ulbrich, and remember, these are rookies. There's still a lot of growth for them to do. And so there's maybe some stuff now that Jeff Ulbrich has not even done with him yet that he will do down the line. It's just going to depend on, the team, how it continues to evolve, and then what they need from him at the end of the day. Like Jesse Bates said, yeah, we're going to probably have a little bit more in the box just because of who we're playing, J.J. McCarthy. And I feel like the safeties were more included in helping containing the quarterback as that second line of defense if he did break out of contain and stuff. But I think overall, I think Billy Bowman, fantastic work from him in this game. And then obviously Xavier Watts. He obviously had that first play blunder a little bit on a route. Didn't really need to there, but made up for it. He had the game clutching. He called game in the fourth quarter on that last Minnesota possession. Really just, and people were talking about Xavier Watts after the first week about how good he was, how instinctual he was, how was he a third-round pick, and how the Falcons got a steal in him. And I fully agree with that. I think Xavier Watts, I heard again on the broadcast, they think that he could be better than Jesse Bates. That's how high the Falcons are on Xavier Watts. And so, listen, the rookie class, obviously it's week 2, so I'm not crowning him. I'm not going to crown him. We have to see how the season goes on, clearly. But this rookie class has all the potential in the world to be the potentially most impactful rookie class since 2016 and really change the identity, be the cornerstone, be the culture-setting class that changes and transforms how you view Falcons football from a defensive perspective. And when was the last time we really had that? 2016, right? Probably because, Keanu Neal, hard hitter, Deion Jones, the leader of the defense. You had guys from that class that they impacted the game and they were here for a minute. And now it feels like the Falcons finally have that class where, they're going to be very impactful. And this class probably has the most upside for the most impact in terms of impact players, like stars. Like you can see Xavier Watts being a star. You can see James Pierce being a star. You can see Jalen Walker being a star. And Billy Bowman might sneak up on you and be a star. So that's going to be huge. All under rookie deals right now, too. So they're, like I said, they're just going to get better. And obviously the one thing you mainly hope for is that they just stay healthy. If they stay healthy, you're good to go. So defense had a great night. A lot of people got in on the sack party. Linebackers, especially Divine Diablo, continues to play really, really well. Caden Ellis was good. They used him a little bit differently. They kind of moved him before the snap, if you noticed. They would kind of have him line up, and then right before J.J. McCarthy does something, he would move to another position, trying to confuse the young quarterback, which I think worked. Like I said, Jeff Ulbrich has done a fantastic job with his defense so far. They play fast and physical. They know their assignments. It just seems like a more cohesive unit with Jeff Ulbrich. And I think he deserves a lot of credit. And I've said he could be one of the most important hires of this entire offseason for the Falcons, just because you had to nail that defensive coordinator position. And right now, you seem like you have. Now, some people are going to say, well, we played the Minnesota Vikings with J.J. McCarthy and without Jordan Addison. Whatever. At the end of the day, you play who you play. At the end of the day, the defense has not earned the reputation to get any benefit of the doubt against no matter who they're playing. These are the type of performances that let you know when we go against teams that we should play really well against defensively, that they have the capability of actually doing it on game day. And that's what is very important. And shout out to Nate Ollie as well for getting that D-line right. People were like, we can't get after the passer. All right, well, we shut that down. So we'll see. Panthers got 2 guys who ended up on IR today. So we'll see how many times Bryce Young gets smacked around in week 3, and we'll go from there. So really big shout out to the defense. Great job to them. And just everybody. Just really, really strong performance. And we'll see what happens with Adrian Terrell. But now we also got to talk about the special teams before we get to offense. Because that was pretty much the offense. Outside of the last touchdown when Minnesota didn't try at the end, it was a field goal fest. John Parker Romo come in there 5 of 5, and he was kicking 40s and 30s. The ones that I said are considered automatic in today's league. It was that 54-yard field goal that was like, yup, he's the guy. John Parker Romo, man, got a game ball from Raheem after the game. I mean, he did what the Falcons need to do. Now, Raheem came out and said that there's a 90% chance he'll kick next week. People are obviously going to ask, why do we keep keeping Koo on the roster? I don't know. But, I mean, John Parker Romo, I mean, he did what you need to do. Offense was struggling to get the ball in the end zone. He helped them get points on the board. And, people were saying, would Koo have done the same thing in this game? Well, the way he's played, you can't say that. You can't say he would have. And so John Parker Romo was fantastic. Special teams coverage was good. Mike Ford Jr., you clearly see why he's on this team. People were like, why is Mike Ford Jr. on the team? Special teams. Making plays on special teams. The special teams unit definitely outplayed Minnesota's special teams unit. They did a really good job overall. And I think that unit, with John Parker Romo gives you more trust. Because like I've said, Raheem said that we have to change the way we look at things with our special teams unit because of what Koo. Now, so far, John Parker Romo has said, you can trust me. You need to go kick the field goal because you said, we need some points. There's going to be a much more of a confidence there that he can do that for you instead of, this guy's kind of shaky. Do we just need to go for it? So I want to give my shout out and my love to John Parker Romo. Great job, debut, 5 of 5, really carried the team from a scoring perspective, 15 points from him, and doing what he needed to do to help the team kind of get that figured out. And like I said, should be the kicker for the rest of the year. It's one of those things where it's like Raheem is like, brother, you can't go back to Koo. Like, even if Parker Romo went 3 or 4 like next game, like you can't. Like what has he showed you that Koo can do that? I don't know. Are you just trying to give Koo a couple more checks? I mean, his salary guarantee, you get a check anyway. So, I mean, I'm really, really glad that they were able to kind of fix that for this game. So, really, really good stuff there. All right. So, let's talk about the offense. So, first and foremost, Falcons able to get the running game established. That was one of the major questions going into this game. The Falcons' running game was shut down against Tampa Bay last week. That something that has been a core of this team for years was not a good sight to see. So the question is, could they do it against Brian Flores' defense? And they responded. Over 200 yards rushing against Minnesota. And it started from the get-go. Bijan got a couple of big runs and just really, really set the tone for the running game. And then Tyler Algier finished it off. Bijan Robinson, 22 carries, 143, 3 catches, 25 yards. Tyler Algier, 16 carries, 76 yards, 1 touchdown as well. That tells you everything you need to know. The Falcons responded. They clearly came into this game with a defensive-heavy game plan. They expected to be more, not defensive-heavy, running game. They came with a run-heavy game plan. They expected to come into this game being more physical, establishing the run, especially when you're on the road, you're playing the defensive line, you're playing Brian Flores defense, you got to be able to slow it down. And the best way to do that is running the football. And the Falcons did that last night. So really big kudos to them for the offensive line stepping up and being able to go back to what they were known for. The Falcons need to be able to run the football. Let Bijan and Tyler cook and take pressure off Penix. Now, that's the positive. The negative is there are a lot of questions today about Zac Robinson's play calling, especially in the red zone. Falcons did not score on any red zone trips till the last part of the game, right? And that's when the Vikings defense just let them score. Now, I was talking to my friend about this earlier, and I said, it almost feels like Zac Robinson is like in a preseason period. Like he's trying to figure out what works and what doesn't for this team offensively. Like, I don't know if any of you have felt that way watching them, but it feels like he's trying to figure it out. Like last week, passing game was good. They couldn't run the football. And I said it wasn't the fact they ran out of a pistol. It was the fact that the type of runs they were doing out of the pistol bothered me. This week, they very much improved the type of runs they were running out of the pistol, which led to the success they had. That shut down the narrative. They can't run out of the pistol. They just have to call the right runs, and they did that this week. A lot of zone, like easy one cuts, just something to help keep it simple, but also allow. And I also love the way they use Charlie Warner this week. I said using Charlie as a motion guy is bad because you're essentially saying, hey, when Charlie Warner goes to his hole, that's where the run's going. That's predictable. This week, they kind of just had him either at straight fullback or they had him motion, but then they had him at the end of the line. So they still like, okay, he just shifted, but it didn't mean they were going outside. They still could have went inside. That's what they should have did last week. That's what have helped lower the predictability on offense. So they did a better job of that this week with the running game, and I think it showed. But the passing game really took a step back. It just felt like there wasn't a rhythm to the offense. Like, I think that's the biggest issue, is that there feels like there's not a rhythm to the offense right now. And I think that's something you always want to feel when an offense is going, is there's a rhythm here. They know what they want to do. They're executing what they want to do, and it's leading to success. And I just felt like the Falcons didn't have it. Now, I think the offensive line still has their troubles in pass blocking. I think that's the biggest thing, I think, right now. Minnesota obviously is known to have a ferocious D-line. So, I expected Penix to be under pressure. And the thing about it is, I think somebody made a great point about Penix, and I think it was my boy Trey Sean. He said, listen, Brian Flores' defense, yeah, my young quarterback might have a mid game against him, but the one thing I don't want him to do is turn the ball over and make boneheaded decisions. Michael Penix didn't do that last night. He didn't put the ball in harm's way. He didn't do anything that really risked the offense giving Minnesota short fields and just making that major mistake. That's been an issue in previous years for Falcons quarterbacks. They would make the major mistake. Penix didn't do that even though the offense wasn't training. And yes, there was the one play to Drake London. Great throw, by the way, on the run, showing the arm angle, showing the arm talent that Drake fumbled. And I kind of looked back at that game last night offensively, and I said, the Falcons had opportunities. There were opportunities to score touchdowns here. They just aren't hitting it. And I'm not going to lie, Penix missed a couple. There was one to Kyle Pitts. I think it was the one where he threw it to Bijan on an out, and I think it was like 3rd and 1 or something like that after that, or it was incomplete. But if you look at it from the all 22 film, Kyle Pitts was open on a slant touchdown. And I think with the pressure with Minnesota, I think Penix just made a quick decision. He kind of was like, what's my outlet? Bijan, I'm going there. Like, kind of like that's my check down. And, instead of maybe staying in there an extra second or two or scanning the field, he would have saw that Kyle was wide open. And he's probably going to beat himself up watching the film because Kyle was open. Kyle Pitts, and I was talking to my friend Berto, who was on the show previewing it, and was saying, like, Kyle Pitts could have had a huge game. Could have had a huge game. Like, this was a game Pitts could have broke out. And at first, it seemed like the way they used him in one-on-one situations, the slant on first down, like you could see the chemistry between him and Penix. And Pitts is more involved this year, and that's what I love. You got to have Pitts in the game plan and involved and know how to use it. And I think they've improved that so far through 2 games. But just overall, the red zone play calling has not been great. It feels like it just isn't smooth. It's not cohesive. It's not, it's just not what you need it to be. Right. And so I think that the people are just really wondering, what is Zac doing? They feel like Zac isn't going into his bag. They feel like Zac is just not calling the best plays in certain situations. And then the offense stalls and you're like, brother, we were in the red zone 4 or 5 times. Why did we not come away with no touchdowns outside of that last drive? Like, what happened? Like, you were able to move the ball. You just weren't able to put it in the end zone. And the red zone offense has been an issue for the Falcons for years. So that's something that people are like, why is this not getting fixed? Why is this not being solved? And I think it's just establishing, is it the type of plays? Some people are just like, why are we just not throwing jump balls to Drake London and Kyle Pitts and seeing what happens? What are we trying to do here? Like, even last year week against Tampa Bay, when Penix scored that touchdown, I mean, remember, we had 7 plays within the 10-yard line. It felt like in the red zone to score a touchdown. It took to the very last down to get in. Like, we have to improve in the red zone if we're going to move the ball like this. Because field goals and touchdowns can be the difference in the game. It can keep teams in the game. That's what kept Minnesota in the game last night. So Zac has a lot of people right now just thinking, was he like people are already going on a limb saying he's the worst defensive coordinator we've ever had. Some people are going on a limb and saying that he is just terrible. He's holding the team back. I've said that I think that Zac definitely needs to improve. And I will allow him to improve. I'm not going to just say he's cooked. But I understand the questions. Week 3 is going to be a very interesting game because Panthers defense isn't that good. The Cardinals put up 27 points last week. We need to put up at least the same amount of points. I think the Jaguars put up, 28, 26? Like, we need to be averaging around with those 2 teams, what they put up. If we are barely hitting 23 points by the fourth quarter or like in the fourth quarter, that's where I will be concerned because Tampa Bay has a good defense. Okay. Vikings, they have a good defense. Okay. Like, we technically scored more points this week than we did last week. We've gone against pretty good defenses. Like, we haven't gone against scrubs on the defensive side of the ball who played our offense. The Panthers are the worst defense we've played right up to this point. So I hope that this is the week that we get things going. And listen, Darnell Mooney came back. Drake London, was back after the shoulder sprain last week. This is, like I say, the get-right game for the offense. Like, this is where you need to try to kind of put it together, find success in the passing game, find success in the running game, still continue the defensive intensity, and really put a 3 phases of completeness together for this game. Because the Panthers, like I said, I'm not saying they got no talent, but like there are opportunities there. And you just got to do it. And they beat you last year, so you should want to get revenge for that. So Zac definitely is your questions. There's definitely questions. And listen, some of that could be the old offensive line being a little shaky, not being the best. This offensive line clearly isn't what it's been the last couple of years. That's why it's just more important they can run the football just to at least have that. And then Storm Norton should be back a little, like, if not the first game, maybe second, third game after the bye. I think a lot of people are expecting Storm Norton, from what we've seen in the past, to be a steady person, at least a comparable starter. And that could definitely help show offensive line improvement. And I think that's one of the reasons why you haven't seen the Falcons take shots down the field, because of the lack of, is there a trust issue with the offensive line of Zac Robinson? Is he trying too hard to compensate for that? Because remember, we said that last year with Kirk Cousins. Was he trying too hard to compensate for his lack of mobility? And so, I think Zac has to put it together next week. I think, he fixed the running game this week. Like I said, week 1, we could pass, we couldn't run. Week 2, we could run, we couldn't pass that well. Even though we had some good stuff, we just couldn't put it all together. Can we put it all together in week 3? Have a strong performance against the Panthers, and then you have the Commanders game where that's a get-back game. You have a potential to go 3-1 going into your bye week, which the bye week is where you make adjustments, early bye to make adjustments, but a chance to make adjustments, and you do what you need to do. So I'm going to be really curious to see how the offense kind of responds. I think Penix, like I said, wasn't as sharp as game 1, but I'm not worried. Game 5 of his career, growing, getting better. Nothing to be concerned about. I'm just glad we were to reestablish the running game. I'm glad that we weren't as predictable in the running game. And I think him, Mooney, Drake, all of them are going to get more on the same page. Especially Mooney's going to have more of a learning curve here. Not that he doesn't know the offense, but just the reps with Penix. They didn't get it during camp because he was out with the injury. So him and Mooney will get back on the training track. And I think Pitts, I think, will continue to ascend in this offense. And I think he'll continue to be a big part of it moving forward. So I'm really excited to kind of see what this team kind of does going into next week. So I think that's about it here for my wrap up. Obviously, guys, let me know what you guys thought below of the Falcons' impressive week 1 victory of the Minnesota Vikings on Sunday Night Football. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, share it with your friends. Obviously, the guys this week, I'll come back with my 3 things I'm looking for in the Carolina Panthers game this week, plus another game week 3 matchup preview, which I'll try to find someone to bring on and preview the game against the Panthers. So excited to continue to go ahead about this, and Falcons hopefully get back over 500 this week against the Carolina Panthers. But a very impressive victory. The class of 2025, the rookies showing out. Let's see if they can keep it going. It's your boy Bryce Lewis. See you next time.